Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. We're streaming on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. What I need you to do is like and subscribe and click that bell so that whenever we go live, you can come up with us. But if you want to see the conversation, see everybody put some faces to these names and to these voices, go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. If you want to keep up with me, go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. What are we going to talk about today? Well, in the midst of this election 2024 season, there is a lot going on. And one of the things that was really fascinating on the Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson radio show, which I produce and host, was really a back and forth that we had this week about the gender gap in Black American politics. It seems that Black men and Black women, not the majority, but a nice chunk, see things a little bit differently in politics. For example, about 24% plus of Black men support Donald Trump. In 2020, it was only 6% of Black women who did the same. Now, mind you, those numbers have risen for both categories, but there's still a stark difference in how Black men see Trump and how Black women see Trump, and how Black women see opportunity in politics and how Black men see opportunity in politics. Some Black men feel that Black women have been chosen over them, and that rubs them the wrong way. Some people feel that Black women are being used to undermine Black people. Black women feel unsupported because we feel unseen. There's just so much in this story that we need to unpack. I only gave you just a few little pieces, but we really see it with the Fonnie Willis story. It seems that some people took umbrage with the fact that she said, a man is not a plan, a man is a companion. That she is someone who forcefully, fiercely stands on her own. And then you watch all the Black women in these Trump prosecutions, and some people have said, why have they used only Black women? They've used a few Black men, but what's the deal? We've got a lot to unpack here. So I want you to settle down and let me know what you think. Please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and let's talk about it. Is there a divide? Is Trump, former President Trump, an aspirational figure for Black men? Do Black men feel, because he is under indictment from every possible direction, do they feel that they have a comrade in arms, if you will, someone who they see as being unfairly attacked or unfairly under attack, outmanned, if you will? So what do you think? I want you to go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and let me know what your thoughts are, or go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. I want to hear your thoughts. So, of course, we have got Dwight McKee. We've got to get Anastasia Sanat back, attorney Anastasia Sanat. But Dwight McKee, brilliant social scientist, the dean of the Maafa Redemption Project. Indeed, you are also a senior advisor to presidential candidate Dr. Cornel West, and you're a member of the family here on the show. Is there a gender divide in Black American politics, Dwight? And if so, why?
Well, uh, I'm not sure you can call it a gender divide, because I don't think it's based on gender per se. I think it's just based on perspective and experience. And I think that Black men have a different experience than most Black women here, believe it or not. I mean, a Black women's experience with racism is very personal, but it tend to be has been historically more sexual or financial exploitation or labor exploitation. Whereas Black men's experience with racism has been more lynching, more prison based, more false arrests, more beaten by the police. And so their perspective, I think, or our perspective on racism is a little different than a Black woman's perspective on racism. Even though, racism is racism, and in many ways is as severe. It's taking a different form, and so
But let me ask
as
you this: do you think it's taken the same toll because a woman's virtue oftentimes is measured by her sexual purity? And so when you attack a woman sexually, the consequences are devastating. I mean, you
Mhm.
attack us where we live, and black men are attacked in your at the heart of your masculinity. So isn't it the same thing?
uh, it's the impact at one level is the same in terms of, like you say, a woman's virtue is the
Crown and
key
glory.
to a lot of her self identity. But it's a little different than you riding up and down the street and the police stopping you, taking you out, beating the dickens out of you just because you're a black man.
But black women then get raped. You know, that was what this book, The Dark End of the Street, was about. That black women routinely have never been protected in the United States, in our experience.
It's
Right?
absolutely correct. And I think it's created a different perspective.
Okay.
I think that the perspective is that black women are vulnerable. They're vulnerable in a different kind of way than in this day and age than black men. Is that black women historically have been raped by white men. But today you don't have white men who would knock on a black woman's door generally and just arbitrarily rape them. Whereas a black man can be driving down any street in America and the police will pull him over and start beating the crap out of him, a la Rodney King. Uh, or, just like black men today, they don't have the kind of lynching that we had 40, 50, 60 years ago, where white men would show up at your door and put you on a rope and hang you on a tree. But the prison industrial complex is as such that millions of black men legally will be set up in such a way that we end up in prison by the thousands and the hundreds of thousands. So it manifests itself a little differently today than it did, back in the day. And I'm not trying to say that our suffering is greater than black women's suffering. I'm just trying to say it gives you a different perspective
Mhm.
on how racism expresses itself in your day to day life.
Well, I
Yes.
think in what, because Anastasia, I think for black men, their masculinity, their sense of manhood, their
Hmm.
manness,
Hmm.
maleness is attacked, but our
Hmm.
womanhood, our womanliness is attacked. To me,
Yes.
they're complementary problems.
I agree. I actually agree with the priority being different for Black men than it is for Black women. And I believe that adds to why there is a racial divide. I was talking to a friend who told me he was going to be voting for Trump this year. And he explained he's a Black male, he's in his 20s. So this is the Black youth. And he's specific, a college educated Black man. Let me put it all out there so everybody knows it's a college educated Black man. And he basically explained to me during Trump's tenure, criminal justice reform was moved ahead more significantly during his presidency than any other presidency. He also mentioned how HBCUs, the historically Black colleges and universities, received more funding under his presidency than any other presidency since. I think that those are two priorities for him. And I think there are other college educated Black men that believe education and criminal justice reform are top priorities that need to be resolved within our Congress. But then he added, which I thought was interesting, he said that all of the people in Congress don't like Black people, right? He said there's so many white people that hate Black people in a general move. He said, why not get the hater to lead us forward? So he thinks of Donald Trump as the hater, the leader of the haters of Black people. But he said he was still willing to do the work. So when Kim Kardashian and Kanye West went up there to achieve second chances for so many different Black people that had been incarcerated, he thought, you know what? I don't care as long as he's getting something done. And I think he also mentioned how President Barack Obama was stifled from being able to get these types of things done. So why not have someone in office that can get it done for us, even if it doesn't benefit the entire population of Black men, because those are his priorities. But when we think about Black women and what our priorities are, one of the things that I think is important is our health. You know, reproduction has been under attack. Also, for some reason, I don't know why it is, but so many more Black women have uterine fibroids that keep them from being able to reproduce. Why is that not being discussed? We also have so many other issues that we're concerned with that aren't necessarily about criminal justice reform. Not that we don't go to prison, obviously we do. Not that we don't aspire to be educated. I think comparatively over Black men, Black women are more educated than Black men as far as going to school. I just believe that our priorities are different, and therefore, because our priorities are different, we support the people that are more aligned with our priorities. And I think women's health is a number one priority. And the other one, of course, is, access to education. But it's access to education in a different form, access to employment opportunities, access to that type of education. So we don't want to just be the worker bee. We want to be the CEO, the CFO, the COO. So when we're thinking about how is it that we can change ourselves to be better, we're thinking from a different starting line, right? I'm not saying that both starting lines are not, riddled, right, with obstacles, but our obstacles and our starting lines seem to be different. Black men have not, in my opinion, advanced as far as some of the Black women have when it comes to education, have advanced when it comes to economics, have not advanced as far as we have. And so when women are thinking about what can we support, or whom, can we support that will advance us further than what we've gotten, it takes us out of the same priority as our Black men.
Dwight, do you think? I mean, how do Black men perceive Donald Trump?
Depending on the Black man, uh, I think many of them see him a little differently than Black women do, because their priorities are different. I think a lot of Black women see him as a threat to democracy, and that's true. But I don't think that democracy is a priority for Black men because they've never experienced democracy, and so the threat of him being a threat to democracy is not the same thing for Black men as it is, for example, for white men who've experienced democracy, so they see something threatened that they've experienced. Most of us have not experienced that. So that's not a threat. And we don't see Biden necessarily is a deliverer of democracy because he's been there 4 years, and many Black men don't think that their situation has gotten that much better. Now, Black women's health is a real priority, and we need to do everything in our power to fight for Black women's health. But the average man in his life, abortion is not that kind of issue because most Black men that I know don't have children themselves. They have children through their wives. And so abortion would not be the same for most Black men, the issue of abortion, as it would be for Black women, who that's more of a very personal, very day-to-day proposition. So, our perceptions are different, our priorities are different because our experiences are different, and our priorities are different. Not our needs necessarily, but our priorities.
So I agree with you, Mr. McKee, but this is the thing. There are so many Black women that are trying to get into U.S. politics and to be on the opportunity side of making this legislation that will work to kind of normalize or equalize some of these priorities. But the people that seem to be advancing are Black men. So we're underrepresented in U.S. politics. One reason is because, quite frankly, we don't have the funding, right? So there's a 7th District Congressional Candidates Forum that's coming up that's being hosted by the Glen Ellen area alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. The U.S. congressman that is incumbent is Congressman Danny Davis. He's been in that role for nearly 30 years. There has been one other candidate, Keena Collins, who came close to even unseating him. But obviously, when you look at the numbers, it wasn't that close. But to gain the notoriety and the recognition that she has, it took a lot of work. She has ran for that office multiple times. Now, of course, he's being challenged by many other candidates, including, I think it's Melissa Conyers Irves. She's the treasurer right now of the city of Chicago. There's other candidates as well. But when you're thinking of Black women, why is it that he did not take the time to educate his replacement? I think of all of the Black congressmen that have been able to make it, there really hasn't been that many Black senators, but let's just put it out there. Cory Booker was a senator. Barack Obama was a senator. Both Black men were not replaced by Black women, right? Cory Booker's still there, but Kamala Harris's seat didn't get replaced by a Black woman, right? What happened to Barack Obama's seat? He didn't get replaced by a Black woman. So when we're thinking about these things, we have to think about, why are they not opening the doors for us so that we can assist in our change? So we can also assist in your change. Why is it that it has to be so different? Because I think, as you have said, and as I agree, our priorities are different. We see advancement as a priority. And I do believe Black men feel advancement is priority. It's just how we get there. And I think the game plan is the starting line, the game plan, all of that is what's keeping us from being able to see eye to eye. And also, Santita, when you brought up the fact that women are disgusted by the fact that he made that grab them by the Uchi comment, right? I agree. I think when we hear women being discussed in that way, whether it be white women or Black women or women of other ethnicities, it really does turn women off. And so to hear a man with that kind of gangster style and that kind of thuggish speech, these are the things that will turn women off. But alternatively, I think that gangster style and that thuggish speech, I think that turns Black men on. Because if you think about it, they love The Godfather 1, 2, and 3, right? They love American Gangster with Frank Lucas being featured. They love those types of movies and criminal attributes, not because they want to be it, but they like that.
Well, it's masculine, right?
That's masculine for them. That's narcissistic,
macho.
But it's so degrading to Black women and women in general. And so I think that's part of the problem with Donald Trump.
So would you say
some of those Black men because of his gangster style and thuggish repertoire?
Well, let me ask you this: is this so? Then, would you agree? I'm going to bring up Attorney Darrell Jones shortly. Is this more about race or is this about gender?
It's both. I mean, for Black people, it's gender primarily. But when you bring in the greater category of the American people, then it does become about race, because they're not looking at any of our issues as being priorities to them.
As human beings.
As human beings. Yeah, We're human, but they don't see us as human. So, we go back to the old adage that we've just brought up in the 2020s, Black lives actually do matter. I mean, Mr. McKee also mentioned, which is true, how many Black men are actually killed compared to Black women when it comes to encounters with law enforcement? There's more. How come there are so many Black men that have children, not necessarily by their wives, sir, but also by their girlfriends, their concubines, their mistresses, and then don't take care of them? There's a problem with the fact that family matters, and that it sometimes only matters to Black women, but it doesn't seem to matter to Black men.
The CDC did demonstrate in their study, I think it was in 2014 or 2015, that the most involved father from birth to at least the age of 5 is the Black American father. He's more involved with his children than white fathers or Hispanic fathers.
But look at back in the 19th century when we're talking about the suffrage march, right? Delta Sigma Theta, I'm going to bring up my sorority as many times as I can.
Our sorority.
Yes. Sorority. Yeah. But I'm going to bring it up because the women's suffrage was something that was important. Initially, when they were beginning, the suffragists and the abolitionists, they worked together. There was interracial, there was mixed gender, and they were all working together. But at some point, Susan B. Anthony makes some racist remark saying white women should get to vote before Black men. Then there became not only an interracial divide, but became a gender divide, because Black men are like, oh, no, you can't go. And I think that from back in the day has caused so many problems. But like when we had that women's suffrage march in March of 1913, Black women were still, specifically Delta Sigma Theta, still wanted to be there, to be present, and to be heard. And so they said, I know you don't see me, but I see myself. And because I see myself, I'm going to walk and I'm going to say I need the right to vote as well. Obviously,
Even though
Black
you
women
all
didn't
want us
really
in
do
the
it
back of the parade, remember
in the
that?
back, but we were there.
Oh.
Where were the Black men? They weren't standing with us. We were there by ourselves.
Well, let me bring in Attorney Darrell Jones. Oh, the gender gap in the gender gap in Black American politics. Um, Race is a part of it, but gender is a real thing. It's a funny thing. Men get together over sports. You all can be fighting on the racial battlefield, but nothing will stop a fight like a good football game or basketball game or baseball game. I mean, really, and men come together on bond on some issues, and I think power is one of them, particularly as people perceive Trump, because Black women see Trump one particular way, and a nice chunk of Black men see him another way, and I would say even Dwight, even more than 24 or 25% support it for a whole lot of reasons. What say you, Attorney Darrell Jones?
Well, Santita, real interesting question with regards to the divide. But, I don't want to say that it's just Black men and Black women, right? This is men and women across the board. White men, Asian men, Latino men, whatever it is, you're going to have a similar divide. And as you said, it may be a sporting event or whatever that brings us together, and then whatever. But it's not just Black men. That's all men across the spectrum. But I think that with the African American man, one of the things that I believe to be true is that because of our denial, because of our forced denial of being able to always be with our family, and that forced separation through the periods of enslavement, that there is a different level of commitment that's there, a very strong level of commitment that's there. They may not be present in the home, but it doesn't mean the commitment isn't there. That commitment still stays in place. So in terms of holding Black men out and saying that politically we're different than our ladies. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're different from one another as well as men as well as women. But I think that as the game moves on, as the movement goes forward, that you would see more Black men teaming up and supporting, if it's an African American woman that's a candidate, supporting that candidate, believing that the entire community, the entire family, if you will, is going to move. I really do believe that is the case. There are situations, obviously, where Black men tend to be perhaps more conservative than some Black women. So there are going to be issues that we're going to differ on. But I think that's across the board. I don't think that's limited to Black men. I think that's just men in general.
I don't see a lot of Black men supporting Black women issues the way that you're saying, Attorney Jones, but I do agree they should. I do agree, and I mentioned it just before you came on. There are a lot of Black female candidates that are currently running for office. They don't have the financial support, and they don't even have what I call the mentoring support in order to fulfill those roles. Why is it that there are more Black men in Congress than there are women? Why is it that there are more Black male senators than there are women senators? I mean, we did obviously have Carol Moseley Braun, but what brought Carol Moseley Braun down, in my personal opinion? It was the man she was with. It's like every time a woman goes up, she comes down. I saw the movie recently, Mea Culpa, which is a Tyler Perry movie that just got released. And she's a defense attorney, or Kelly Rowland plays a defense attorney in that movie. I'm not going to give the details away, but it is the man that tends to bring the woman down. It seems to be the basic narrative. Why is it that the man cannot support the woman in her role, in her steadfastness? I think that's another reason why a lot of Black women who are successful end up dating outside of their race instead of, trying to maintain the connection with the Black man. Why raise a family with a Black man who's going to try to bring them down because of their gangster style, thuggish, egotistical, narcissistic ways? Why not go for for the white man who already feels confident in himself and just have a family and do that's what matters to them, reproduce in that way. I just think that that's something that Black men need to improve on, supporting us.
Dwight?
Well, that's why I say I think it's two different realities. I think that what black women are about advancement. Black men are about survival.
Hmm.
And so your priorities go in a different direction. It's one thing that your primary concern is how can I break this glass ceiling on my job or my corporate job. It's another thought that how can I get home from my job at night without getting pulled over the police and get beat in the head until I'm comatose. And that's our reality. And sometimes I think black women don't understand that reality, that that either because they have access to, or because it's so personal, or because it's embedded in the culture. Most white policemen get their jollies from antagonizing or beating down black men that they have access to. And
Black
that's
women
what,
bring Black men to earth, period. Why wouldn't that be a priority? Why would I want to see my son beaten up and all those types of things? It's still a priority, but we add it to our advancement. Why can't Black men add what our issues are to their advancement?
you think we don't?
I don't think it's enough numbers. I mean, if you see as Santita Jackson brought up earlier, why are we as Black women voting in greater numbers for a Democratic candidate than we are for a Republican candidate? I believe there was an article that I read that said that we haven't, as Black women, voted for a Republican candidate since like Bob Dole, 1996. Why is it that Black men are not consistently following our lead? If you're unable to be a leader because you feel this way, why not follow our lead? Because we
Because
can
many
bring
of
you.
us think you're leading us in the wrong direction. Is
How is
that
that
if we
possible if
see?
we bring birth to you?
I'm trying to respond.
Oh, I'm
If
sorry.
we see the Democratic Party, if we don't see that as the panacea for black progress, then it seems that black women see it as. And so 90% of black women voted for the Democratic Party. Well, but black men are saying in bunches, what is the return? What have we gotten? What is the benefit for that? How's that benefited us? When we see the Democratic Party put more priorities on an investment in the Ukraine or Israel than they do to black men or black women, then we want to know what is the benefit, what is the payoff. And so it may not be a hostile to black women situation so much as we think that a lot of black women are going in the wrong direction themselves, are leading us in the wrong direction.
So I think about that
Okay.
as a good point. But the thing is, how did you get to be the man that you are? Your mother raised you. So why would you not want to believe in what your mother believes in? Why would you want to question her leadership? And I think that goes back to the gangster style thuggish thing because they feel egotistically or maybe a misogynistic type nonsense that women can't lead.
Well, my mother and father raised me. My father was a major player, deacon in the church, had a job and at home all of my life. And so my mother had a vote, had a voice and a vote, but it wasn't unanimity. I mean, she really kind of got behind my father's judgment in this direction. And so my experience is not my mother leading me. My experience is my father having the primary vote, my mama supporting him for the most part.
So are you saying that Black women should follow their Black men?
No, I
Can
was just using my family as an example. The example you used was how come I don't follow my mother's lead? And I'm
That's not,
saying
I
that
mean, your
my
mother
mother
was in
didn't have
your
the
life.
only
That's
lead.
what I'm saying. Like my father obviously is definitely in my life. My mom and dad, they come from a community of people that, whoa, let me tell you, my dad was the former physician for Mayor Harold Washington, who was the Black person that became the first Black mayor of Chicago. So I've definitely seen the dynamics at play when it comes to male, female roles through my family as well, and through their friend connection. But I believe, honestly, if we were to put our support in the Black man, would we be confident to know that those priorities, criminal justice reform, also, greater access to education. Is that something that you would be able to do for our priorities? Would you be able to lead our priorities forward if we follow you?
Yeah, but and we're saying, I guess, well, all we're saying, and I want Daryl's opinion on this, is that, but don't give a party all of your legitimacy and all of your power, but not hold them accountable if they are not taking positions on that which protects us or you all. And so black women in droves supported the Democrats, but they didn't support the George Floyd bill, which protects black men. And so we saying maybe we need to relook, we need to cross-examine the notion that giving such priority and such energy to the Democratic Party ought to be our priority as black men when there's no direct return, no profound return on that for us in those issues that matter so much to us.
But Dwight, before Daryl jumps in, there's an old expression in the black community: we love our sons and we raise our daughters. Black women did support the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. In fact, oftentimes, and this has been my experience, my mother said, I don't worry about you coming home. I worry about Jesse, Johnny, Yusuf, and your father getting home every time they walk out. But I remember I was late coming home from the library one day, and our attorney even canceled his flight because my parents were worried that something had happened to me, that I'd been violated in some way, because I was never late coming home. So, I mean, you see, but I just, and sometimes black girls, Anastasia, maybe, I don't know if you've seen this too, sometimes the pain of black girls and the invisibility of black girls is not addressed.
Mhm.
Because we expend so much energy trying to save black men, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but our issues get swept under the rug. Like, it is not an inconsequential thing for a woman to be sexually violated.
I mean, the sexual violence, as Oprah Winfrey has mentioned, can come from within our black men and our black families. It's definitely not something that we look to. I think Dwight McKee brought it up. We're not looking to be raped by a white guy. We are scared
Not now.
of being raped by, not now, right? But I'm saying we are scared to be raped
No, wait
by
a minute, not as much now, because there's some positions that black women will not put themselves in even now, because you don't want things to go left with white men, because white men can still think that a black woman is not of high virtue. Anastasia, we've been in those positions professionally. You know that.
Yes. I mean, the biggest, I think, challenge when it comes to corporate America for black women has been our Karens, right? Mm-hmm. The white women that feel that they are the queen bee and that we need to come and follow them. And if we don't bow down to them, we're going to be attacked, we're going to be discriminated against, and then we won't be able to, as Mr. McKee has already pointed out, reach the glass ceiling that we're trying to break. But at the same time, when we're thinking about black men, why aren't you trying to help us break that black ceiling? You know that you sit there and you have football and basketball conversations with the white men. You're in the rooms, you're seated at the table. Why aren't you trying to bring us in? That's just always been my issue. Every time we see someone in that place, in that position, why aren't you trying to bring us along? Why is it that we have people like Clarence Thomas that instead feel that they should be married to a white lady? Or Tim Scott, I believe his now engagement to a white lady, or all of these athletes that are now married to white ladies. I'm not saying that there aren't people like Russell Wilson who has got a strong black woman, but very few of them tend to choose us. Why aren't you choosing us? Why are we always behind?
I think another part of that is the compromise that you make with the white power structure, because remember, if something happens to that black man who's married to the white woman, the wealth goes to her.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the man will not get that big break unless he is married to that white woman. I'm just keeping it 100. Not to mention the fact that sometimes black men's taste, because we got some color issues. That's real too.
Right. And two other things happen in that, I'm not going to make this the bulk of the discussion. One is that because most black women have to work so hard to succeed, and their priority when they're in school is education, then that's their priority. And so whatever's happening in the sports world, what's happening in the basketball thing on campus is not an issue for them, because unless they're a cheerleader, they're focused on becoming a doctor, becoming a nurse, becoming a teacher. Whereas white women, by and large, have been trained to go to college to get a man. And so what they do is they have the liberty that they recognize, is my experience, the talented black guys that have an NFL or NBA future. And then they've been taught how to connive to position themselves to lock him up before he realizes his potential. And so by the time he gets drafted, they're already positioned in the mix. Whereas the black woman is, that was not her emphasis or her values. And so, they really kind of get played out of pocket by white women who've learned the science of how you lasso a husband in college. And because most women, black women, go to college not to get a husband, but to get an education. A lot of white women go to college to get a husband. And then secondly, on the sports thing, I'm talking about mostly about sports now, the agents are also trained to position people that are close to them, the white women close to them, to be the benefactor of the relationship between their clients and their relatives. And so many of these introductions of the white women to black stars or black athletes come from the agents themselves, because that's part of the way they maintain control and they have access. And so, you find a lot of these guys are set up and introduced to these blonde cheerleaders by the agents who say, I got somebody I need for you to meet, and set it up in such a situation that they block access to black women for the purposes of setting white women up.
And I think that's a good point that you just made, because Jalen Hurts is an example of someone who not only selected a woman to manage him, but he also selected a black woman. Our soror, Santita Jackson, she's a Delta. But I think that it's interesting that you brought that point up. Why is it that so many black men have not selected not only black people to represent them so that these relationships can develop, but how come they have not selected these agents that are black women? I mean, many years ago, I remember when I was in college, I had met an artist and I said, I'm going to be a lawyer and I'm going to be an entertainment lawyer and you're going to be my first client. He's gone on to win Grammys. We're still good friends, went to his wedding, all that other stuff. But I ended up realizing when I faced that situation that the entertainment industry was not very receptive to black women leading or managing. How come black men have not opened that door? Why won't they trust us to lead them in that way? I would love your opinion on that.
Well, wait, let me add this to the mix. Cheryl Giudice, who's a sociologist out of Northwestern University, Dr. Cheryl Giudice, who I've interviewed before, and I will interview her again. The name of her book is Interracial Relationships Between Black Men, Black Women, and White Men. She did a study at Northwestern, and she found that many black girls, black co-eds who were there, Dwight and attorney Sanat, Dr. D and my beloved soror. These young women had not had a date in 4 years because the black men on campus were dating the white ladies. Now, I'm not against interracial relationships. Do not.
Not at all.
No, not
at all.
And in her book, she says, look, black girls, I don't want you to get caught out here and not have a date. You should be open to interracial dating because that's who you're coming across. Because these black men, they're dating. They're just not dating you. And in certain milieu, Dwight, that's true.
But it's also true for the black women athletes. and the black women stars.
Not as much. I mean,
Many of them, no, it's not as much, but many of them are married to and dating white men.
yeah, but
And I'm saying to you is that because in many of these situations, those relationships are controlled by the agents and by the coaches.
I understand that.
For example,
But no, one moment, because the studies do show, and our experience bears out, black women are far less likely to date or marry outside our race than black men.
I mean, look at our entertainment industry. Look at how many black women are single and successful and rich. Octavia Spencer. We've got Taraji P. Henson. We've got all of these black women that are successful and rich and all of these things. And then all of a sudden we have people like, oh my goodness, why is his name escaping me? The one that was in going to be playing the role that got in trouble in court for the white women that he assaulted. I forgot his name.
Yeah, that he was found guilty.
Jonathan Majors. Yes, Jonathan Majors. He was with the white woman. The white woman tried to bring him down, and now he's with Megan Good. But why do we have to get the cast off? Why do we have to rehabilitate the black man? Why can't the black man just choose us? I know you were saying something, Mr. McKee. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I want to hear from
Daryl.
Daryl.
It's a fine time to come back in, Daryl.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Santita. Yeah,
how we got away from the vote to over here, but I guess it's all part of the same conversation. It's part of the same thread. I think.
Family matters. It's still political because family is what drives women in order to do what it is that they want to do when it comes to legislation. So it's still politics.
You're right. You're right.
No, I'm with you. It's still politics, and the whole
Don't start stuttering now, Daryl.
But when I was thinking about
Daryl, have you changed your speaking your device?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Not as clearly.
Let me see what I can do.
Oh, are you on the headset?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to switch over to one.
Okay. Can you leave Daryl alone, Dwight McKee? You old meanie.
I don't mean to attack you, Mr. McKee. I'm just trying to talk about it because I'm just thinking that this is something that we need to be discussing as a black community.
Oh, I don't take it as an attack at all. And I don't take it as an attack at all. Okay. It's I'm just simply saying that, and I'm not trying to excuse black men because I totally agree with you. I think that it's part of our responsibilities as black men is to elevate our black women, and to protect our black women. I'm just dealing with the sociology of it, how it plays out in the sports world, rightly or wrongly. I'm just giving you, the protocols for how somebody ends up that way. The other part of that is, and it drives me to almost to no end, almost nuts, is that for a major athlete, black man who's making $10 million a year in the sports world, for him to marry a black woman, in many ways, they have to be a PhD candidate, they have to be a doctor, they have to be a lawyer, they have to be a highly successful cream of the crop. But many of them would marry a white woman who's selling ice cream down at the local restaurant.
Well, at least
Tiger Woods, who married his nanny.
I mean, that's crazy to me.
He married the nanny, the tour nanny. She'd been a nanny for several other families on the tour.
Yeah, and OJ married Nicole. She was selling ice cream or something. Selling jewelry.
OJ was married
at a bar.
Yeah, at a bar. And so, what our expectations for who we marry are inconsistent. Is that we'll marry any mediocre white woman that's blonde with blue eyes.
Or not.
But no, and end up having to give them 10 million.
Economically, that means the money is going out of the.
Wait a minute, you're going out, Anastasia. You're too far away.
Oh, I'm sorry. Economically speaking, that means that the money is leaving our community.
Wait a minute, Anastasia, are you on an earpiece?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I just need you to come in a little closer because it's a little too low.
In Tiger's case, it went out to the tune of $1 billion.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of money.
Now
But
there you go. Wherever you are now, that's it.
yeah, that was definitely something that I think is important to note. When we're thinking about politics, we're thinking about our economics of the community.
No,
How we're
come back to where you were, Anastasia.
my internet is unstable.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
think my internet is unstable.
Continue.
So I think that the money, economics is important to us. We want our communities to develop, and it's hard to develop our communities if the money is leaving the community. Number one. Number two, it's hard for us to reproduce our Black men and our Black women if, quite frankly, we're not staying with each other. I know, Mr. Jones, you're back, so I can't wait to hear what Attorney Jones has to say about this. Come on, Mr. Black
Wait a
man.
minute.
Tell me something.
Come on.
You know, it's really interesting because, you know, I was thinking about what Dwight was saying. I was listening to the conversation, and I was thinking about myself, right? And I wonder, you know, why is it that I get so excited when I see LeBron James is married to a Black woman, right? What shouldn't that just sort of be what you expect? I mean, and maybe it's my generation or whatever. You know, when I see that that Dwayne Wade is married to a Black woman, right? All of a sudden, I start looking at the athletes, these star athletes, and I'm wondering if they're married to Black women, because that's just what I anticipate. And again, that's part of my upbringing, right? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with interracial marriage or anything along those lines, but you know, let me just break it down the way my parents brought it down to me, right? My mother would say, you can marry whoever you want to marry, as light as you want, as dark as you want. But I don't see why you would go outside the race if you're looking only at color, because we got everything right here in the African American race. It's all right there.
Wait a minute, Dwight. Go back to where you were. It was perfect.
I was losing battery. I had to move my phone so I can recharge it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Attorney Jones.
Yeah, so it's all right there. You know, it was. I come from a family that believes in building the wealth within the Black community and staying within the community with all that we do. As much as we can turn over, many times we can turn over $1 in the Black community. That's what we want to do. And so that's always been my focus, is being certain that I'm dealing with other Black businesses, that there are other Black people that I'm dealing with, or people of color that I'm dealing with, that I'm enabling the community. And so when I listen to the discussion, it's mind-boggling to think that there are Black men that will not support African American women that are running for office simply because they're women. That's mind-boggling. You know, I'll support someone who's against my interests, against my political interests, rather than supporting the woman, you know, who's going to have my interest at heart.
Well, they did it with Shirley Chisholm. I mean, Shirley Chisholm, Daryl, to your point, said that she thought that race was going to be
Also a Delta.
Come on now. She thought that race was going to be the biggest hurdle that she had to overcome. She said it was the sexism within the Black community it broke her heart. Broke her heart.
Yeah, and even with Congresswoman Chisholm, you know, when she decided to run for the presidency, you know, the Congressional Black Congress at that time, right, the CBC wasn't completely behind her, and it was I believe Perrin Mitchell, as well as the brother out of California, I believe. Dellums, thank you, Ron Dellums, that got behind her, and they were the ones that were trying to pull the other guys into it. So I don't necessarily get the concept of why we would be against somebody. You know, for both Dwight and I, we were both birthed by Black mothers, right? Why would we be against a Black woman who's given birth to us only because she's a woman politically? It doesn't make sense to me. What makes sense to me is we're all moving in the same direction. Let's hook on to whoever we need to hook on that has our best interests at heart and move forward. So, you know, when I think about Sherry Beasley, when I think about Val Demings, you know, I didn't hear, and I'm not going to say it didn't exist, that there were problems within the Black men supporting her. I didn't hear that problem with Black men supporting her. What I did hear is a problem with the Democratic Party supporting them, but not Black men in particular.
But Stacey Abrams had that problem. Stacey Abrams lost that race really by the measure of Black men who did not support her.
But that's a good point, Mr. Jones. Why is it that it's a complicated issue within the Black male community that you all can't get on board with us? Why can't you understand the guy that's sitting next to you is not willing to support someone that's just a woman? Why can't you ask that question? Why can't you bring that brother along to your perspective? Why is it that you all are not having that conversation to tell them, hey, look, brother, you need to stop doing this. She is smart. She is this. She is that. And she has our interests at heart. Why aren't you all having that conversation as you're watching football or basketball? I just don't understand.
Well, we're watching football, basketball. We're probably not talking politics, but
Exactly.
right.
Oh
Oh
my!
my! But Colin Kaepernick brought it to your attention, and look and support him, a black woman.
Colin Kaepernick, right? He did transcend the field because of what he did on the field in terms of his social protests. But with regards to, here we go, with regards to Brittany Griner, right? Black men, I think, supported bringing Brittany Griner back and doing all that was there to to be certain that they were supportive. The NBA went out of its way to be certain that they were supporting the release and return of Brittany Griner. So I don't know that it's across the board that that black men just aren't supportive of black women. I think there are some black men that may not be supportive of black women, just same way there are some white men that are not going to support white women for whatever reason, whether it's the sexism, misogyny, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's going to be there, and it's going to be dealt with. But I just don't believe it's the majority of black men that take that position.
Hold that thought.
And I went in.
Everybody, hold that thought. Got to come out. Please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe and click that bell so you can be notified when we come on live. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm Santita Jackson. Stay tuned for the second hour of this great conversation. Stay right there.
And for the record, I went with Al Sharpton with Brittany Griner's wife about her being released. In